It's no longer carefree joy. Under Susan, George's career soars, but his growth costs his wonder. He constantly double-checks every single idea with Susan, utterly forgetting the girl who once helped him grow up. What an absolute mess. You know, she really likes George's ideas, but she can see his changes. He's acting way too much like a nitpicker. He used to radiate happiness without realizing it, but now, only work, how sad. How do you feel this? How do I feel anything? How do you know me? George is trying so hard to act like an adult, but all he's learned are the DOS, and his playful banter has become a flop. Then, Billy rushes in with a Consumer Affairs letter. Billy can't get in touch with George amidst his paperwork, which has practically buried all his toys. After trying every means to reach George, Billy rushes over. Clearly, George's excitement is long gone. Annoyed, Billy hangs up, leaving George feeling very displeased. He's adapted to this lifestyle, but Billy insists he needs a Who on earth are you? You're Josh Baskin. Remember? You fell flat on your face. I was falling apart in your room while Robert Dyson was ready to knock your head off. Aren't you my best friend? Isn't Billy important? Sometimes a good scolding wakes you up. Watching Billy leave, George feels lost, longing to reclaim what's gone. Strolling down his old neighborhood, the crisp autumn air brings back nostalgia, awakening that lost boy within. It feels like everything happened yesterday. Time slips away unnoticed. Autumn leaves are yellow, and he watches kids playing by the street, reminiscent of his own past. One is named Billy, and the other should have been called George. That kid, named after him, has grown up, while he just stands there, realizing he's lost not just Billy, but his care. Some deeply concealed truths ultimately require someone to bravely step forward and reveal them. And so, George begins to vividly recount his magical personal experience of wishing himself into adulthood. But it's beyond Susan's comprehension. She thinks it's just an excuse for George not wanting to take responsibility. He doesn't want to face reality, but keeps dreaming about returning to those carefree days. The more he thinks about it, the more he dreads facing it. It breaks his heart. The sharing of this tale far transcends the scope of Susan's understanding. He sees it as an excuse to evade responsibility. That night, Susan tosses and turns, knowing that her mom hasn't seen her for a while. The next day, Billy finds George again. He's called each name on the Consumer Affairs list to track down that magic wishing machine. He jots down the address and delivers it to George himself, a true friend. This time, he lets George choose, be a VP or return to childhood. In the boardroom, George presents a new product, an interactive comic book where kids can choose their own storylines. The CEO is clueless about the product's appeal and is throwing jargon at George left and right. Susan jumps in to help, explaining that the appeal lies in letting kids choose how the story ends. George starts realizing that the real audience for these products isn't kids, but those entering adulthood. Reflecting on George's words from last night, she chases after that absurd story. Downstairs, Billy spots George, hoping he'll return to being his old self. Billy excitedly calls out to George, finding out where he's headed. They rush to K Park, where George finds the wishing machine first. He pulls the plug and it lights up like a Christmas tree. He wishes to be a kid again, and suddenly, a bunch of cards spews out of the machine. His wish is confirmed, and George finally realizes this isn't some fairy tale. All he knows is that at this moment, he just wants to go home, and so he does. Why leave? Susan has to accept that he's leaving, and it cuts her deep. George wishes he could go back to being 13, but Susan doesn't want to revisit her childhood. She drives George home, and even though it hurts, he has to return to his own life. I truly miss you so much, he says, filled with deep longing. You won't even recall me. Probably, Susan responds with a deep sigh. They make a dandelion promise in the maple grove. Susan is willing to wait for George for 10 years. But everyone knows this is just a self-soothing mantra. Before they part ways, Susan kisses George one last time. But this time it's not on the lips, it's a sweet kiss on the forehead, respecting George's innocent heart and following societal norms. George's figure fades away, and with a heavy heart, she glances back. Suddenly, he's 13 again. As time pauses, with a whisper, the 13-year-old George stands still, looking back at Susan with all the love in his eyes. The days together were beautiful, but the melody of returning to childhood is even sweeter. Despite the heartache, they put on a brave smile. At that moment, George shakes off the weight of adulthood and returns to his original life. The retreating car quietly carries George's recklessness, taking their memories to seek tranquility. Some wished time to rush by like a flowing river, while others wanted to drift gently like a soft brook. But in the end, it's all just a fantasy. To adults, George is no welcome guest. He breaks the unspoken rules of the adult world from a child's perspective.